discolored teeth because they weren't getting milk. They weren't getting calcium in their diet. This is not a bad idea either. This is a packaged food. It actually cooks up very quick and very easily, and you can use it to feed. 2 of these packages can feed a family of 4 adults. Spaghetti. Anyone who has enough room, you should store as much spaghetti, macaroni, anything like that away, because it is easy to store, quick to cook, and will keep you from starving to death. People don't realize it, but water, up until 100 years ago, was very unsafe. Coffee and tea were developed, or not developed, but used to flavor water that you boil. And if you did not boil your water in 1905, you were dead by 1906. And this is why coffee and tea was used all over the world. You just have to figure out how much coffee and tea you want to keep on hand. Instant rice. I like the instant rice. It's quick, it's easy, and it is as good as the spaghetti for putting calories in your diet. But you can also go with macaroni and cheese. The one thing you don't want to make the mistake is having food that you cook in a microwave, because you're not going to have a microwave to cook it. And most of the microwave food, they don't tell you how to cook it anyways without a microwave. This is good old Kool-Aid, and you can use that in place of the coffee and the tea. You just heat the water up to a boil, then you let it cool off to room temperature, and then mix it. Oh, the other thing that you should be aware of is that you don't want to buy a large supply of anything in a can that you're going to drink, particularly if it is carbonated, because the cans have a shelf life, because they'll start to leak. What you want to do is get anything that you have a top that screws on and off. So if you don't drink the whole thing, you put the top back on it and you can drink it at a later date, instead of it sitting around for 2 or 3 days with a top off. Curry. Spices are going to be very, very important. Curry is used to originally hide the taste of tainted meat, and was not any kind of a delicacy or anything like that. They used it to hide the flavor of rotting meat that people were eating. And if you've studied history at all, people who lived in large cities, they were eating food that in some cases was a week old and was at the point of beginning to be very aromatic. Stuff like garlic salt, onion salt and garlic salt. They are all very good ways of flavoring your food. Where did I put it? I guess I didn't. Did it bring it up? No, I guess it didn't. Salt. are going to need salt, because when you stop eating at fast food restaurants and you are not eating um, processed foods, they have no salt in them, and without salt in your diet, you're dead. And this nonsense about, oh, I gotta buy low sodium. No, you don't. Inside of 3 or 4 months, sodium in your diet is going to be almost non-existent. One of the biggest problems that we had in America up until they started putting iodine in salt, or they started bringing salt from the sea, which has iodine in it, to the dinner table, was goiters, huge goiters, and salt deficiency in salt has a lot of other problems that goes along with it. You have to start looking into canning. These are asparagus that I canned in the springtime, and you need to have a pressure canner, not a boil bath canner, a pressure canner, because a boil bath canner, you can only can high acid foods like tomato sauce or pickles. I make dill pickles, and I do that in a boil bath canner, but for stuff like the asparagus, yellow beans, what else have I canned here lately? Yellow beans, corn, that kind of stuff that does not have a high acid content. You need to do it in a pressure canner. Now, pressure canners are made of aluminum, and with no power, you have to be careful about the heat that you're putting against the pressure canner. So you put a piece of plate steel over, let's say you're using a Coleman stove, you have to put that over the burner, and then you can put the pressure canner on it. If you're doing it over an open fire, you got to do the same thing. You have to protect it, the aluminum, from the direct heat, because if you don't, you'll warp the pressure canner. You can also burn the aluminum. One of the things that you should have on hand, good old-fashioned coffee pot maker, or coffee maker. The old coffee makers, coffee pots work very well, and you can, make your coffee over an open fire or over like a Coleman stove, that kind of thing. And I'm talking not only the Coleman stoves that have the bottled gas, but also burn liquid gas in them. Now, the other thing that you should have on hand is a mortar and a pestle, because it will come in handy when you are making something and you get it in a solid form and you have to grind it down. Mortar and a pestle is very, very worthwhile purchase. Cast iron. I have everything from a frying pan that is that wide down to frying pans that are this small, and a 1 quart, half quart, 3-quart pans of cast iron. What you do is you season them up, and if you seasoned them up right, you usually don't have to re-season them for 5 or 6 years, and that's well, let's see. The best grease to put on them is bacon grease, or you can use olive oil, and you, after washing the pot, you wipe it all on, and you have to take the wooden handles off of the pots that have them, and you put it in the oven at 480 degrees for 45 minutes. And you just let them sit until they're cool. And I say that because I know people who have tried to reach in there and grab a hold of them when they're hot. That's because in the 1960 census, there was about 14 days worth of food in every house in America. And at least 3 meals a day for a period of 5 days a week were being made. In the latest census, there's less than a day's worth of food in the average American house, and most people don't even make a meal at home in the house. They go to McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or something, and that's how they're feeding their family, because they're too tired coming home from work to cook a meal. You will need a long forks, and you're going to need a nice big kitchen knife for cutting things apart. You're going to be on the barter system at that point. Money is going to be useless. You couldn't give me a 1 ounce gold coin for that can. I can't eat the gold coin. I can eat what's in there. So you're going to be on the barter system, so you may have to barter for chicken, beef, that kind of thing if it's available, milk, salt, like I say, is going to be, it's going to be hard to come by. In fact, at one point in history, the salt was worth more than its weight in gold. The Roman army was paid in salt. At least 50% of their salary, which is Latin for salt, was salt. And they would then take it to the market and they would trade for whatever they were getting. Wine, food, that kind of thing. You don't want to be caught shy of salt. You want to stock up. I keep about 200 pounds of salt in 50-pound bags just for preserving chicken and meat. I also make my own corned beef. So you take a brisket and you cut it up into 4 pieces and season it up, and you put it in a bucket with a top with a lid on it, and you put the starting date on it, and you have corned beef within 40 days, and that corned beef in that bucket is good for a year. Chicken, being salted, is good for about 6 or 7 months. This whole idea that everything has to be refrigerated, it does not have to be refrigerated. Refrigeration is a convenience. It is not a necessity. However, you can't keep milk on the counter for more than 24 hours. But eggs are good up to 2 weeks on the counter, so long as they're not in the direct sunlight. And eggs and right. Trying to think.
What about like butter and that kind of stuff?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, butter. Salted butter is good up to 2.5 to 3 weeks, depending on the ambient air temperature. So long as it doesn't go above 80 or 85, butter is perfectly fine sitting on the counter. It's not going to go bad on you. the whole thing with fresh vegetables. One of the reasons why 100 years ago you had what was called a kitchen garden, which was a garden that was right outside the kitchen door, was that you could pick vegetables every day or every other day and have fresh vegetables. But that's only good up to the point where the vegetables stop producing. You're going to have to start growing food. This is seed corn. This is seed corn that I grew this summer, and I'm letting it dry before I take it off the cob. And this is a more modern corn that is really not as healthy for you. It's mostly sugared water, whereas this is actually food that you chew and you're getting something other than sugared water out of it. This is 12-row corn. You do not want to ever grow hybrid, because this seed that you're going to get from the hybrid will not germinate, or will revert back to something else that you don't know what it is. Could be field corn. It'll revert back to field corn. One big problem with growing a garden is that you're going to find that under most circumstances there are 2 or 3 things that you can grow very well, and there's a whole bunch of things that won't grow. For instance, I have a problem growing peas. I'm having a problem growing summer squash. I have a problem growing potatoes. I keep experimenting. What was working for me when I lived in upstate New York doesn't work down here. In fact, the soil down here is really quite poor. You need a jackhammer to dig a hole with this red clay. In the long run, what you're going to need, let me get it.